How's it going, everybody? David Cloninger with the Charleston Post and Courier and Gamecocks now, welcoming you to another edition of Countdown to Kickoff. Obviously, South Carolina had its bye week last week, so I had a bye week last week. I hope you guys were able to relax and enjoy it in the meantime, as South Carolina used the time to get itself a little bit better, and I used the time to kind of rest myself off from 8 straight games. But we're back to preview the Florida game this weekend, and with me as my guest today is a former USC center from 2001 to 2004, Mr. John Stickland. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, David. How about you?
Not too bad, my man. I appreciate you joining the call. And I like your background decoration. Could you point out some of the other guys in the pictures for them?
Yeah, so you got John Alston, you got Jeff Barnes in the background back there. You got Jabari Levy. Let's see, Gavin Ford, who was a fullback. And then the other guys are kind of jumbled up, so it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, that was a picture that was gifted to me by Mike Raff's dad that he took. And this one was one of the old pictures that were in the stadium back in the day.
Right. Yes. I think I still remember them gracing that back hallway back when Coach Holtz was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are kind of the senior gifts, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, John, I know that you watch all the Carolina games and are still a loyal season ticket holder, that kind of thing. So let's just get right into it. The Texas A&M game, wasn't much to talk about. Wasn't a whole lot of highlights there. Just what did you see from that game, and what were your overall impressions about the Gamecocks from it?
Well, it was probably the worst offensive struggle I've seen in my 21 years as a Gamecock. I was shocked. We only had 15 yards of offense through 3 quarters. I was a little dumbfounded by that. Thought we would perform a little bit better. And then, the defense can only do so much when they're on the field nonstop and the offense is going 3 and out. So that's kind of my takeaway from the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people have written to me, John, saying, and this has been a season-long thing, Dave, what's wrong with that offense? What's going on? And I think a lot of it, you always hear the expression, it starts up front. And it's why you're a perfect guest to have on this week, John, because the offensive line has struggled, to be kind, this year. As a guy who's been in it, who's been in the middle of those trenches, what do you see is going on with this offensive line?
Well, throughout the season, you've seen a lot of miscommunication going on. There's been a lot of missed assignments. I was watching the Georgia game, and I just sat there and counted probably 6 missed assignments just on pass pro the first half of the game, just where guys were just running free. Now, whether that's miscommunication on blocking scheme from the quarterback, the O-line, running backs missing blocks, whatever. It's definitely some stuff going on there. And from what I've seen, it seems like in this offense, when I played, the center made all the protection calls, the run calls, blocking schemes. I don't know this for a fact, but from just what I've seen, seems as if the quarterback is making those calls instead of the center, which is rare. I mean, if you watch any football game, you'll see the center pointing out, talking before snaps. We don't do a whole lot of that in this offense, and it seems like the quarterback's the one that's calling the protections, and I think that's where a lot of the miscommunications are coming from. Even the Vanderbilt game, I saw Eric Douglas and Luke fussing back and forth with each other after one pass play where Luke got sacked, where the guy ran free, sacked us, and nobody blocked him. And there was a clear miscommunication between the quarterback and the offensive line.
And, that brings up an interesting point, John. As a center, how do you treat your quarterback? I mean, I know that they try to be as nice as possible, but they get sacked, they get hit, and they come up, yelling at you. How did you try to handle it? Did you try to calm them down, or did you pop back at them sometimes?
You know what? I never had really any problems with quarterbacks getting upset. I mean, it is football. You are going to get hit. You are going to get sacked. I mean, none of us are perfect. You train to be perfect, but you're never going to be perfect. So I don't know. I mean, it's just all about just saying, hey, we'll get them on the next one, basically. I mean, you try not to get down on each other too much. But I have seen some frustration between the O-line and the quarterback this season. A lot of it, actually.
I asked Marcus Satterfield, this was quite a few weeks ago, about what's going on, about who's making the calls. And he said, well, the center has the ability to identify the Mike linebacker. The quarterback has the ability to identify the Mike linebacker, and they can overrule each other. And to me, I thought, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I didn't press the point, but they've said miscommunication is a very broad term for a lot of the offensive line's problems. So I asked this week, is it worth it to maybe simplify the offense, try to do the calls? And they said, well, the communication has gotten a lot better. But that may be true, but the product seems to be getting a lot worse. So with the communication, John, from an offensive line standpoint, just explain that for the layman. What's all the communication going out there from play to play, from the O-line to the QB?
So basically, if you have a run play called, the offensive line is going to run up to the line. The center is going to identify what defense they're in to the whole offensive line. He's going to call out a Mike linebacker, and the Mike linebacker is usually where you work to. So you're working from Mike, and then you're going backwards to backside linebacker on down as far as who you're blocking to and working to. So it's basically the same thing during pass pro when you're on a pass play. You're calling your basically main side of the guy that you would be picking up. That way your running back knows where they need to work back to and pick up a blitz, and same for whichever free uncovered offensive lineman doesn't have a guy he can slide out and pick up a blitz. Then there's other tells you can pick up on too. I mean, when I played, I could read a defense. By the time I walked up to the line and they kind of set up, I could read a defense. I could tell you what side, if they were blitzing, I could tell by where the safety was playing and how close they were walked up on the outside and which way they were slanting and bringing a blitz from. I mean, I could pick it up quickly. I think it's better for the center to make those calls than it is the quarterback. But it seems like the way we're doing it right now is the quarterback's the one making the call. And I think that's where a lot of the miscommunication is. I mean, I know a ton of guys who coach football, and I asked them, I was like, man, have you ever been around an offense that, just the quarterback's making the calls and the blocking schemes for the offensive line? They said pretty much never. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of struggles going on down there. And of course, this week coming into the Florida game, there's another question, which is the status of the quarterback. I mean, Shane Beamer says he's not going to name a starter before Saturday, which I get. I mean, you don't want to give anybody any advantage. And I also think that they honestly may not know. For those of you that might have missed it, Zeb Noland had a minor knee surgery just after the A&M game. He tore his meniscus, which is not one of the 4 main ligaments in the knee, and you can come back within a couple of weeks. And he has been in practice these past couple of days and doing a little more each day. That said, Zeb Noland, nothing against him, but he's a statue back there. And you have to have a quarterback that's going to run around, because I think you might agree with this, John. All Texas A&M did was line up 8 in the box and rush 4 every play, because they knew they're not going to run against that stacked box, and we can tee off on that quarterback. Is that what you saw?
100%. I actually said it during the second quarter. And a lot of teams have been stacking the box on us all year, daring us to throw. And you go back to the ECU game, that's all they did is had 8, 9 guys in the box and dared us. In the second half, we finally started letting it loose and throwing it downfield. So that's been a thing that pretty much all defenses have been doing against us all year, just because they don't respect our pass game, and why should they? I mean, we haven't really done a whole lot with it. So, and then they feel like they can just stack us up and beat our offensive line and stop the run.
Yeah. And that leads into it like, well, if Zeb Noland is still feeling that knee surgery and the choice is made easy, Jason Brown comes in. Now, Jason played the 4th quarter at Texas A&M. He threw a couple interceptions, one of which was his receiver's fault for bobbling the ball. But the main thing, the offense started moving. Now, yes, it was a second-string defense. Yes, the Aggies were up 44-0 at the time and didn't have anything to try for. But the offense moved, and a lot of it was because when they rushed, Jason could move out of trouble. So the choice this week, if Zeb's hurt, there is no choice. You start Jason. to me, I think that they're thinking very seriously about starting Jason anyway. And John, what I wanted to ask you is that when you have a mobile QB like that back there behind you, how much does that help out an offensive line that's struggling? And how much can that really energize an offense that's been struggling?
Well, the good thing about having a mobile quarterback is it extends plays.
Yes.
So, if you have a play and you don't have a mobile quarterback and you're not, we just haven't blocked very good, whether it's the miscommunications or just getting straight up beat or running backs missing blocks, whatever it is. We just haven't been very good there. So a mobile quarterback gives you the opportunity to extend plays and either run the ball or either give other guys a chance to move around and, get open and get the ball to them. So I think that's the great thing about a mobile quarterback.
Yeah. And as a refresher to our audience, John, who are the quarterbacks that you played with at USC and where were they on the mobility scale?
Well, so Phil Petty obviously was the first one, but what people don't understand, Phil was actually a really fast guy. He really was. So he was actually pretty mobile. But then I have the mobile as you can get with Corey Jenkins, Dondrell, and Savell Newton.
Yeah.
I think Blake and Mike were the only two that were probably the least mobile. But, Blake was he was a pure pocket passer. That's what Blake was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a few mobile quarterbacks in my time.
Yeah, specifically with Dondrell and Savell. Those guys could really just make something happen out of nothing. I think that's what the Gamecocks are looking for pretty much anything on offense right now. But if you have a guy like Jason, and honestly, at this point, it's like, what have you got to lose by putting him out there? At least maybe that gives the hope that he can get some of these guys in space and really start to work. And that leads us to another offensive question, John. A big part is the coach is saying, we got to get the ball to our playmakers. I think, well, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I see Jaheim Bell not in the game. I see EJ Jenkins not in the game. With Josh Vann, he's in the game, but he's getting double covered now, which is understandable with his early season success. But who are the other guys that the Gamecocks have to get the ball to if they're going to actually score some points?
To be honest with you, I've been saying Jaheim Bell all year. It's so funny. So, the long touchdown catch he caught against Vandy?
Yes.
30 seconds before that play happened, me and Brewer, we sit beside each other at games. And I said, Brewer, we got to throw the ball to Bell. And sure enough, 30 seconds later, like 75, 80-yard touchdown. I was like, well, there you go. Did I call it? I think he's one that we have to find a way to get more involved in this offense. He is a bright, very athletic, up-and-coming tight end. I think he could be an all-SEC tight end, years to come. I think he's one. And then, obviously, we have playmakers all in the backfield. I don't know. We just can't seem to block the zone. We're just getting – basically, zone is you zone up, and then you have a man, and you have to beat that man. And we're getting beat, but we're also getting the box stacked on us, just like, man, you just talked. Because what I would love to see is us run some more RPOs. I think one game I counted, we only ran 1 or 2 RPOs in an entire game.
Yeah.
I think we need to run some counter plays with a little pin and pull. I think that's where we had success last year with Kevin Harris was that running game. When zone's just not working, you have to throw in this direction stuff with counters and stuff. And when you do that, I personally like counter plays because it has the defense. It's not as easy for the defense to read. It kind of tricks them a little bit, and it opens up holes when that happens. So I think it's Bell, and we got to find a way to get the running backs involved, whether we start throwing some screen passes, which we haven't done very much of at all. I think those are your playmakers, and you have to get them involved somehow.
Yeah, that was one thing about that Vanderbilt game, and really that route. You noticed that it was actually kind of set up intentionally or non-intentionally. The Gamecocks got the ball back, and they had some success early. So then they run basically a trick play where it's a receiver reverse to the end, where he got cut off and then tackled. And I thought, why are you trying to get cute? Just line up and run the ball. But then what do? They line up the tight end to one-on-one coverage, send him deep down the field. bam, touchdown. And I know a lot of people think, why can't you just do that every time? Well, of course you would like to do that every time, but it's just not possible. The problem there is that after that really foolish decision on the 4th and 3 throw to Xavier Legette, well short of the sticks, I thought the Vanderbilt game was actually called pretty well from an offensive standpoint.
I did too.
Calls fault when you fumble and you get called for holding and all this other stuff.
2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 4 turnovers. I agree with you on that. I thought the Vandy game was called very well. It's just that now players got to go make plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Texas A&M, nothing worked. I mean, I had the 89 49ers out there, and it probably wouldn't have worked with what they were doing. It was just absolutely ridiculous. But looking ahead to the Florida Gators, strange Florida team coming to Williams-Brice Stadium this Saturday. You know, they've had a lot of dissension this week. They got their ears pinned back against Georgia last week, which Georgia's real good, but Florida it went from 3-0 to 24-0 in the span of less than 3 minutes. And that's just the kind of thing that can demoralize a team. So looking at Florida from afar, John, what do you see as the biggest thing that South Carolina has to shut down?
Well, you're going to have to shut down a mobile quarterback. I know that. And like we just talked about, mobile quarterbacks can be a real problem. And so I think I almost want to say you got to have a guy spying the quarterback the majority of the game and not let him get loose and outside and run. Because we've seen both of them can do it. What Richardson, I think he's one of the best running quarterbacks in college football right now. So he's going to be a problem. And then their defense is really good. I mean, you can let some of the scores they've had fool you, like the Georgia game and others, but Florida's defense has a lot of talent, really big up front, really good defense. So I think we're going to have to throw some wrinkles in if we want to score any points. And I think the defense is just going to have an outstanding game and cause some turnovers. And if the offense is going 3 and out again, it's going to be another long.
And it's already set up to be a pretty long night anyway. I don't know if you've read the weather forecast, especially for yourself or for the audience, but it's supposed to be cold, rainy, probably about 35 degrees once we all get out of the stadium on Saturday night. So it's going to be a nasty one. Please be sure to bundle up if you're coming, and hopefully the Gamecocks give you something good to cheer about. One thing that may help, you mentioned Anthony Richardson. He is questionable to play. I believe he's got a concussion against Georgia. They don't know if he'll be able to go. That would leave it to Emory Jones, who's also mobile, but he's had some up and down games. So you just kind of hope to catch him on the downside. You mentioned a spy on the quarterback. Generally, if you have that, John, it's probably going to be a middle linebacker, somebody like that, correct?
Yeah.
What would you think if USC really went out the box and said, you know something, Jalen Foster at safety's had an All-American type year. Maybe we can use him a little closer to the line, use him to spy. And they've sent him in on a couple of safety blitzes this year, but can a safety be that kind of spy out there without sacrificing too much?
No, I don't think you can do that. I think you got to leave the guys where they are. I mean, not saying Foster couldn't do it, but I think he's a little undersized to be at middle linebacker, because if they just start running the ball, I think that's where the downfall would be. So, not saying he couldn't do it, but hindsight's 2020. I think I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and that does leave it up to USC's linebackers. Brad Johnson's been having a pretty strong year. Damani Staley's had a decent year. And then you have the nickel. Carlins Platel or whoever might take that spot can be in there and try to keep Florida's quarterback under wraps. And like I said, the Gators have been going through a lot of off-the-field turmoil as well, which a lot of it's created by their coach, Dan Mullen. He's had a few comments. There's a lot of whispers around going that he might not want to be there anymore, that kind of thing. How much can that kind of demeanor, John, affect the team? And I ask you because at the end of 2004, you guys went through sort of the same situation where Coach Holt's future wasn't up.
Before you just finish that question, I was just going to tell you I've been through something similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like when Coach Holtz announced to us before the Florida game, we were sitting at 6-3, probably should have been 7-2 at the worst. and then 8-1 at the best. But we had a really good team this year. And then it seems like when Coach Holtz told us before the Florida game, you had a bunch of guys that were upset, especially younger guys, because, hey, we came here, you recruited us here and now you're leaving, da-da-da-da. And I think that causes a real problem on the team, as you saw the results of the Florida game that year and the fight with Clemson. I think it just makes guys lose focus on what they're supposed to be doing and maybe puts a little bit of anger into their head. And so I think this is actually something that if we come out and have a good game, coaches call a good game, and the players don't have missed assignments and we don't turn the ball over, I mean, I really think this is a game you can win because of that kind of stuff going on over there. Because it does take a toll on players.
We got a question from the audience here, John, and this is from Bob. And Bob says, Eric Douglas said this week that the O-line is still confident. And Marcus Satterfield says this offensive scheme isn't any more complicated than any other scheme. Could suddenly the offense start to click and we see the results that we all want? John, you want to take that one?
There's been no proof of things clicking and the results are going to come. It's actually gotten a little bit worse the past, at least the last game to me. But I mean, with a week off, it does do wonders. I will tell you that. It kind of gets you rest up, gets your mental regain, gets you back to feeling good. So I'm not saying it can't work. And really, though, Satterfield is right. The offense is simple. I mean, we ran a lot of zone with Lou Holtz, and we did a lot of counter, too, though. A lot of pin and pull. So we had a mix of it. But, I mean, there's nothing rocket science out there. I think it's just guys miscommunicating with each other. And me personally, I don't like the quarterback calling the blocking the O-line. I don't think it's a good thing. And I think that's been some of the problems this year. So hopefully they got it sorted out last week, and maybe we will see an improvement this week. Who knows?
Yeah, and to add to that, Bob and John, I mean, there's no magic pill that you can take even over a that says, oh, okay, everything's fixed now. It's not like you come up on one dynamic play like, oh, that's the reason. That's what we got to do. There's always going to be hope that, something works, that you find a seam in the defense. I mean, it could be something just as flukish as, they threw it long down the field and the corner fell down and it became an easy 6. I mean, sometimes you need things like that to happen. So you just have to hope that they find something that works early and that they have the smarts to keep doing that if it's working early. Yeah. And if Florida sniffs that out, then you go to something else and you can do it. But again, as John pointed out, things haven't been going great, and it's hard to imagine that it just all of a sudden reverses, which is a shame because coming into this season, John, I don't know if you agree here, but I looked at these last 5 games, starting with A&M, and said, I don't know if Gamecocks win any of those. And they didn't win at A&M, which I didn't expect them to. Didn't expect them to look that bad, but I didn't expect them to win. But these last 4 games, they're all winnable. Every single one of them is winnable. And that's going to be the difference between a good season and a bad season. The Gamecocks are 4-4, which is certainly not bad. How they've gotten to 4-4 has been a little worrisome, I guess. But how do you see the rest of this season playing out, John? I mean, can they feasibly win 3 of these 4, 2 of these 4 to get bowl eligible?
I feel comfortable saying 2-2 finish. Could you maybe catch Florida this week sleeping at the wheel after getting beat down in Jacksonville and all the drama that's going on with them? Maybe. And then hey, maybe you win 3 out of 4. I really don't see us beating Auburn. Auburn's playing as good as any team in the country right now, in my opinion. Just, I've watched a couple of games. I watched Saturday night's game. Auburn looks really tough. It's not the same Auburn team that came in here last year. And I will tell you this, watching their offense, it looked a lot like our offense last year. With obviously for there was a ton of pin and pull, and guys were getting big I see 2-2. I think Missouri is very winnable. I know it's on the road, but they haven't shown much at all. And then Clemson's offense is probably equal to ours. So I think it's going to be maybe a 3-2 game.
Yeah, it's weird. I looked at the NCAA stats for total offense this morning, John, and Clemson's at number 114 out of 130, and South Carolina's at 115. So yep. I have been looking up the all-time lowest scores in the rivalry game, and there were a few 6-3 results in there. Might be in line for one, but I always like to use the last part of the show to talk about my guest career. John, you redshirted in 2000, correct?
Yeah, redshirted 2000. Then I lettered 2001, 2002, starter and lettered 03 and 04.
Right. So you kind of saw the gamut. I mean, you were there for the first Outback Bowl season. You played the second Outback Bowl season. Then 02 and 03 weren't great results-wise, but you became a starter. And then came 04, which was a weird year. Just
super weird.
The most about that.
If you go – I did this not too long. I just went back and looked at some of our games and the scores of some of the games. I mean, that 04 team, we had a lot of talent. I mean, you just look at the NFL draft and all that good stuff, and all the guys that are played in the NFL, and a couple still are. But we had a really good team that year, and that 6-5 record and the fight against Clemson was very disappointing. I mean, at the very worst, I think we were at least a 8-3 team, and it just once Coach Holtz told us he was stepping aside, it messed the mental game up for the team. Yeah. And I wish he wouldn't have done it. I wish he just would have waited till after the Clemson game and then, hey, all right, Coach, well, let's go win a bowl game for you. But didn't turn out that way with that.
And John, I don't want to use the word regret or anything, but obviously Coach Spurrier came in after Coach Holtz. Any wish that you maybe could have had 1 year with the ball coach plan?
Yeah. So, it's funny. Coach Spurrier recruited me at Florida. So I hung out, talked with Coach Spurrier, and years before South Carolina on recruiting visits down to Florida. I think I went down there for probably 4 or 5 visits, unofficials and stuff. And so I knew Coach Spurrier since then, and they also recruited my cousin, who was 2 years older than me. I used to go down there with him on his visits when I was a sophomore and he was a senior in high school. So I knew Coach Spurrier for a while, and yes, I mean, I would love to play for Coach Spurrier. He's a great guy. I'll never forget this. I got one good Spurrier story. So, I was undrafted. I went to the Redskins, went to mini camp. I wound up getting cut. And I walked up to the coach's offices right before camp started that August, his first year. Walk in there, I talked to Jamie Speronis the second. Coach Spurrier comes out, and I was like, "Hey, Coach, yeah, John Strickland's like, yeah, Strickland, yeah." He said, "You was with the Redskins about as long as I was, wasn't you?" That was his first thing. And I just, I was like,
man, that's
I changed one bit.
Yeah, man, that's one thing. And I think Steve Spurrier is going to come in. I'm not sure if he'll be at the game. I think he's supposed to be in town this weekend for some event. I had heard earlier in the year they were going to have a reunion of the 2010 and 2011 teams during one of the games, but that might have got nixed because of COVID protocols. So, but I have been talking with Coach Spurrier off and on about this series on the 2011 team I'm doing. And I know there's still some hard feelings about how it ended here, but nevertheless, the man had some great ball games here, but that's beside the point. But John, so what are you doing these days in your real life after football? Now, you in Houston full time in the oil business?
Nope, I'm in Columbia. I work out of my home office. Have been for over 11 years now.
Wow.
I work for a company called Vertex Energy. We're probably the second or third largest re-refiner of used oil in the U.S. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm basically over the entire black oil division. I'm over the black oil supply for all of our refineries that comes in. So basically we take used oil that you go get your oil changed, and we recycle it back into brand new base oil.
I
And
need,
that,
need to change mine, come to think of it. But and
yeah.
you got to Houston a good bit, right? I think you got a season.
Yeah, I have. I haven't lately. I think last time I was there was probably 2 months ago, but I almost went last week. My parents wound up going to the game 2 they went to. So yeah, no, I haven't been there in probably a couple months.
Oh, okay. I was just about to ask you what you thought about the game the other night, but we don't have to put that up if you don't want to.
Well, we're from Georgia, so
Yeah.
I was going to Braves games since I was 5 years old. Actually, I haven't been to a Braves game in probably about 8 years, and in the past 8 years, I've probably been to 60 Astros games.
Wow.
So, but my company has season tickets, and a lot of my friends in Houston that I'm friends with now, and some I do business with. We all go to Astros games together. So, I'm actually the way I look at it, National League, I'm Braves, American League, Astros. And you can ask all my buddies, my Braves buddies and Astros buddies. I was telling them, I was like, man, this will be awesome if the Braves and Astros are in the World Series. And sure enough, it happened. So I thought so basically it was a win-win for me. I was happy with either one.
I can understand it. I'm sure hoping you get to see another win this weekend as Florida comes to Williams-Brice Stadium. John, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been terrific catching up and great insight on how the offensive line is going. And for all who asked a question and joined in, we appreciate y'all. All the subscribers to Gamecocks Now, thank you so much for reading. And there'll be a lot more updates this week. But yeah, with the Gamecocks offense, it's just kind of wait and see, and maybe it'll get better.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think Coach Beamer is going to get it right. Trust me. I've known Shane for a long time since he was here his first stint. I've followed his career since then. I just talked to him 2 weeks ago. He's going to get this thing right and do whatever it takes to get this thing turned around. That's who he is. He loves his place, wants to be here, and he's going to do whatever needs to be done. So I just tell the fans, stay patient, support your team. We only won 2 games last year. Let's let this thing get rolling a few years. And I promise you, Coach Beamer wants to get this thing right. I'll leave everybody with that, and just let's get out to the Florida game and support this team.
No doubt about it. Well, again, for my guest, John Stickland for the Post and Courier, and for Gamecocks Now, I'm David Cloninger with Countdown to Kickoff, and we will see you Saturday night at Williams-Brice. Wear your raincoat and bundle up. Y'all take care.